Welcome to episode 8 of Senior Care Insights, a podcast dedicated to helping you navigate the world of senior care. My name is Dr. Deborah Moerland, and I'm the podcast host. My main business, though, is I own First Light Home Care of Greater Lansing, Michigan, as well as First Light Home Care of Brighton. Today, we have 3 special guests. First of all, we have Scott Topin, who is the owner of Lansing Junk Removal. Then we have Nadal Garia, and he is the director of Quality Care of Howell. And then we also have, finally, Steve Gonzalez, who is a bereavement director at Harmony Care Hospice. Stay tuned for our show. Welcome, Scott. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, Scott, you're the owner of Lansing Junk Removal. So tell us how you got started in doing this.
So I used to move people all over the country, and I was looking for something different to do. I was living out in Detroit, and there was scrap just everywhere. And a cousin of mine, he was doing a lot of scrapping. So he kind of got me into doing that as just like extra income. And then I moved out here to Lansing, and I was working for a moving company here in Lansing. The company was cleaning out a office building, and turned out that they were just throwing everything away. And I got looking around and saw that everything was scrap metal. And I thought, hey, why are they throwing away all this scrap metal? So I worked out a deal with them where I cleaned out the entire office building in exchange for the scrap metal. And that kind of launched us into our processes.
Oh, nice. So how is Lansing Junk Removal different from the other trash removal companies in the area? And I know that you don't call everything junk that you actually get, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of the main ways that we're different is we actually have a free, cheap, and antique store right here in our building. It's a pretty popular place. We got about 14,000 followers on Facebook. So what it is years ago, I was cleaning out a really nice place. They had some great stuff, and the couple had passed away, and I didn't want to see everything go to landfill. So I took it over to one of the local thrift stores, and they looked at it and said, yeah, this is great stuff. Just pull over to the dumpster and just throw it all in the dumpster. I was like, are you kidding me? This is great clothes, furniture, stuff that people could use. And so I ended up renting a storage unit, and I just put everything in the storage unit, was giving away everything for free. And then that just kind of built up to where eventually I started having a lot of expenses. So I started selling a few things just to cover the expenses. And then it just kept growing to where now we're in a 10,000 square foot building, and, have probably about 500 to 600 people come through in a week. So pretty busy place. So yeah, we try and keep as much as we can out of landfills, even some of the silliest stuff that, like a half bottle of laundry soap, rather than throw it into a landfill, we just give it away or sell it maybe for a dime or a quarter or something.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So how do people get a hold of you, and what purposes would they need to get a hold of you if they wanted to get rid of things?
Yeah, absolutely. So they could either call our phone number, 517-643-0940. They can go on our website and click and fill out the form, or they could even book us online. And then what we do is we come out and take a look at what they have, give them an exact quote, and then if they approve it, we can load it up on the spot. One other way that we're different than our competitors is we usually can get there either same day or next day. So there's no long wait for getting things done. We come out and give an estimate, and we can load it up on the spot. So you're not having to wait, a couple days, couple weeks to get this taken care of. We can take care of it right away.
Okay. So how are you working with seniors in the community?
So there's several different ways. One, we're contractors for Tri-County Office on Aging. We do a lot of times people come to them with a hoarding situation, or they just got behind on taking care of, the trash around their house. A lot of different situations to where they don't really have family to help them and, kind of taking care of the cleaning and organizing and that kind of stuff. So we're able to step in and help them on that. We also partnered with Adult Protective Services to where different people. Like we helped a couple weeks ago, was the house was so unsanitary that the caregivers couldn't feel safe in taking care of the gentleman. So we came in and got everything cleaned up, sanitized, got things into working order, and was able to really help that gentleman out. And then it also made things safe for the caregivers that were trying to take care of him.
Okay. So do you charge everyone who you work with? Let's say there is a senior who wants to give away some nice things for your thrift shop, but you would need to pick them up. Or is there always a charge for you to go out and do that?
There is. What we do is we charge based on whether or not it's good reusable stuff. So there's one price for if it's just straight trash, another price for if it's something that's good reusable, another price if it's something that could be recycled. So we price according to that. If it's good reusable stuff, since there's no disposal cost, we're able to deduct that off of the overall costing. But we do charge for removal. What we like to let people know is, like, with the free cheap and antique store, what we sell in there, we sell so cheap that it just barely covers the rent, utilities, the employees, the taxes, insurance. There's a lot of expenses in having this facility for that purpose. But we're fine with just breaking even as long as it's a way of just keeping good stuff out of landfills and helping people out that are in need. In fact, we find a lot of times other thrift stores will shop our store and buy stuff to sell in their store because it's so cheap and they can mark it up. Or even some of our clients come in and, like, at the beginning of the summer, they'll buy a whole bunch of stuff, put it in their yard sale, and make a nice profit off of it. So we don't mind people making money off of us, just as long as we can keep this stuff out of the landfill.
Yeah, that's really good too. Do you ever donate to, like, the poor or anything like that if they're in need of, let's say, even though a dime or a quarter might be really, really cheap, some people just might need something extra?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had people come in that either lost everything in a fire, starting over, going through a divorce, a lot of different situations. And when they're in situations like that, we try and go through and help them out with, furniture or dishes or clothes or whatever it is that they need. So we try and help out in that way. And then we also, in the store, if you come in each month, we do a different local charity. We sponsor them. And what it is if you donate $5 or more to that particular charity, then you get half off your entire purchase. So not only are these items cheap, you could also get them for half off by donating to the local charity that then is also helping out the community in another way. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation.
Right. So how many employees do you have? How many people are working in your store, and how many people are going out and picking up things from people?
Yeah. So we have about 5 to 10 people, depends on the time of the year, that go out and pick up stuff. We've got 2 people that work in our warehouse that when we bring everything back here, everything just gets unloaded. And then those 2 people go through and sort through and figure out, like, is this recyclable? Is it something that we can give away, or is it something that we need to sell? And then they sort through all that. And then we have 3 store workers that then take those totes or take those items, put them into the store, clean them up. We do repairs, testing on stuff. So we try and make sure, like, things are back in good reusable condition, and then get them out into the store and get out to the customers.
That's really nice. And where exactly is the store located again?
It's located at 1408 Lake Lansing Road in Lansing. If you're familiar with Lansing, you got Lake Lansing Road, 127 Eastwood Town Center, Wood Road. Then you have a roundabout. When you come out of that roundabout, we're on the south side of the road.
Okay, that sounds good. And so, do you have anything else that you'd like to share with us about what you're doing for the community?
We try to do just so much. I don't even know where to start on that. we get very involved in the chambers. We get involved in a lot of the local charities that we sponsor. We try and participate in those things. We're affiliates of the Greater Lansing Association of Realtors, along with we're also affiliates of Keller Williams, and we work with a lot of the different realtors in the areas. And they even have different events and community programs that they get involved in that we try and get involved in too.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. I hope that some people will find your services very useful.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate what you guys do. You guys do a lot for the community, and we thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. Stay tuned. Our next guest is Nadal Garayeb, and we'll be talking with him shortly.
The friendship, the closeness that two people can have.
My caretaker just does everything I ask her to do.
Motivates me to the extent that I know that I can live another day.
She's my transportation. When we shop, groceries, she fixes my hair for me. And she makes her lunch, she makes supper. She just ordinarily is a companion. And she walks the dog, which is wonderful. And so she's a lovely companion.
I love her. She's fantastic, and she's doing a good job.
Welcome back to Senior Care Insights. Our second guest today is Nadal Garayeb from Quality Care of Howell. Welcome, Nadal. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing well, Debbie. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us on our show. So you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I am the owner/administrator of Quality Care of Howell Assisted Living. We are a 40-bed assisted living in the Detroit metro area in Howell Township. We are licensed as an adult foster care through the state of Michigan.
Okay. Give us some information about Quality Care of Howell. What kinds of services do you provide there? And tell us about the facility.
For sure. So we are a 40-bed assisted living. We're built in two phases of construction. We've built the first portion back in 2017, 20 rooms, licensed as an adult foster care. And in 2019, we broke ground and added on an additional 20 rooms, making a 40-bed facility. Our clientele are senior citizens. Services are anywhere from assisting them with their activities of daily living, passing them their prescribed medications, checking their vitals, health and wellness checks, medical emergencies, cleaning their rooms, preparing 3 meals for them 7 days a week, and offering them some entertainment activities. We are going on year 7 now, and starting from a brand new facility to where we are now, we've come a long ways. We have good standings with the state, have created a good reputation for ourselves amongst the community, and really wanted to be in this area. It's a semi-rural area, and I know, Debbie, you're familiar with this area. My father and I, by trade, are real estate appraisers, and as appraisers, we study demographics. And I think you and I and the rest of the world know it's an aging population. So we had studied 5 counties and looking at population trends. We also went through this as a family. I had grandparents on both sides of my family that were impacted in their later years prior to passing with underlying health conditions and with memory loss, that being dementia. I had a grandmother in Nazareth, Israel, that passed in her home, and where my father and my uncles brought caregivers to the home to care for her. And I had grandparents in the Metro Detroit area on my mother's side that were both in nursing homes. We're very family oriented, and we come together as a family to take care of our loved ones, which was part of the reason why we built this community 7 years ago.
Okay. So what separates you from other facilities in the area?
When we built our community, we were working with a business consultant from the up north area that really helped us get up and running, helped us with policy and procedures and daily operations. But ever since opening our doors, we've been able to fine tune ourselves to accommodate the demographic that we serve here in this area. I would say what really separates ourselves, as we didn't reinvent the wheel here, is being a family operated business. My presence here, my staff here, my CFO, Deborah Wagner, who handles all of our finances, our kitchen manager, Liz Nasco, who sets our menus, places our grocery orders, and making sure all of our diet restrictions are followed. Our shift lead on the floor, Janice Grigg, who's been with us for 4 years. Being a 7-year-old company, we've been able to put these key persons in place along with our general staff of caregivers, housekeeping, maintenance. You really feel from the staff, from the visitors and the residents that this is a family-operated business versus other communities.
Yeah, I think having an owner involved is very beneficial because that's kind of what I do as well. Obviously, I'm in the business to help people, and I feel like if I were not overseeing it, just like your business, things may not happen the way we want them to. So I totally agree with the family part of it. My daughter works for me as well. So it just kind of makes the whole system go a lot better. So why did you want to go into this line of work coming from real estate or whatever you were doing before? So.
Sure. Yeah, and as I stated prior to coming here, I was doing appraisals at my parents' real estate office, where we specialize in commercial and residential appraisal reports, some bank work, litigation, marketability studies, things of that nature. And as stated, my father and I started planning this back in 2014 as we saw the need for it. We had other properties that we owned and managed, such as an apartment complex, but wanted to explore assisted living and senior living. And we put our hands together and we hit the ground running. And we did things by the book. As this is a state licensed facility, we had to have our ducks in a row and our I's dotted and our T's crossed to make sure we had everything in place before we accepted that first resident back in February 2017.
Okay. And how many residents do you have now?
We have about 35 residents right now.
Out of 40, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you just recently opened a memory care too, correct?
We do, yeah. Most of our community is set up as general assisted living. We do have a portion that can be utilized as a lockdown memory care area. But primarily right now, our seniors in the building are general assisted living.
Okay.
It's a tough field, and you have to give it 100% dedication. And I am here 6 days a week, sometimes 7. My phone is always on. People are always calling me. But it's a very rewarding field. It really is, to make a difference in these senior lives in their later parts of their life, to see the appreciation from the families, from the residents, from visitors. It gets me up every morning to come to work. Making a difference for our staff. We've created about 35 jobs here. Our preferred providers that are in the community outside of our 24-hour care, the physician that comes in about once a month, the pharmacy that provides us with medications, home care and hospice in case there's any need for skilled nursing, outpatient rehab that utilizes our gym here for physical therapy and occupational therapy, a podiatrist that comes in for the residents' nails.
That's nice. That's nice to have. So what do you think is the hardest part of your job?
Oh, the hardest parts. COVID-19 was a challenge. That is something that I've never seen in my lifetime, and I don't think I'm too old, and I hope I never have to see that again in my lifetime. That was probably the biggest challenge, but we persevered, from my staff to myself and my parents. as ownership here, as the things that they do behind the scenes that not necessarily does everyone see on a daily basis, the financial support that they gave us, and the support that I had from my staff that stayed with me during that time to push through as we went through an outbreak of some sort in late 2021 going into 2022. And we pushed through it. In 2022 going into 2023, things really opened up for us. And the families too. You know, the families of our residents are very understanding and accepting of what's going on here. Caring for seniors, as the saying goes, I think they say it takes a village to care for our children. It takes a village as well to care for our seniors. And the support that we get from our families of our residents is greatly appreciated and helps immensely caring for our loved ones here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all had the issues with the COVID and things, but, you know, there are always other people don't really see what happens behind all the scenes. They just think everything is smooth and easy going. But when you have to deal with 35 to 50 to 100 different people, you know, on a regular basis, and to make everybody happy, that's a challenge every day. But, you know, I'm sure that you've been working as well.
And there's a burnout. There is a burnout for the position, for the job, and we've experienced it here. I'm not going to tell you it's smooth sailing, Debbie, and there's no issues of any sort here. There is. My job, my management's job, Deborah and Jan, and the rest of my management is to try to avoid situations as much as possible. Right. We try to anticipate things and avoid them to the best of our ability.
Right. Yeah, I think we have a lot in common there with how we manage things and how we make sure that we're looking ahead to be sure that, you know, the main goal of what both of us do, even though you have a facility and I'm doing home care, is to make sure that the clients are well taken care of. And if that's the goal and we're both trying to do the same thing, you know, it just depends on the family and what they want to do.
I focus on my residents and my staff. Everything else will fall into place.
Right. Absolutely agree with that. What are your future goals for Quality Care of Howell? Do you have any more plans for expansion or anything?
Sure. Yeah, my father and I and my mother are in talks to start another phase of construction. We've now built 2 phases of construction. We are on a rather large parcel of land here. It was always the goal to continue building. COVID-19 back in 2020 and 2021 did put a damper on things. However, we are pushing forward and are reaching stabilization here. We would like to break ground and add a 3rd phase of construction, but change gears from assisted living to independent living. So with independent living, those are not licensed buildings. Those are units for seniors, 55 and up, say 60 and up, that pays a monthly rent and comes and go as they please. They are on the community here. If they had any interest or any needs or wants for assisted living, they would be able to make a smooth and easy transition to the assisted living area here.
Okay, that sounds like a great plan going forward.
Yeah, so we're looking at units that are about 1 car attached garage, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, full kitchen, full living room, completely 1 floor, 1 story, handicap, wheelchair accessible.
Oh, wow, that sounds very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining us on our show today.
Thank you.
We hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Stay tuned for our final guest coming up.
The friendship, the closeness that 2 people can have.
My caretaker just does everything I ask her to do.
Motivates me to the extent that I know that I could live another day.
She's my transportation. When we shop, groceries, she fixes my hair for me. And she makes her lunch, she makes supper, she just ordinarily is a companion. And she walks the dog, which is wonderful. And so she's a lovely companion.
I love her. She's fantastic, and she's doing a good job.
Time is valuable, especially when it comes to caring for a loved one. Instead of spending your day juggling caregiving tasks, you could actually spend quality time with your family, enjoying the memories, playing games, catching up on work, or simply relaxing and getting recharged. A client review stated, "We used First Light Services to care for my mom for almost 3 years in her home. We were very lucky to find such loving and compassionate caregivers. They were knowledgeable about mom's issues and truly cared about her well-being, as well as helping the family learn how to adapt to her changes. Our caregivers are professionally trained, background checked, must pass a drug test, and are compassionate. We offer flexible plans tailored to meet your family's needs, ensuring that you get time back in your day without compromising the quality of care. Don't let another day slip away being a caregiver. Make the call today and let First Light Home Care of Greater Lansing illuminate the pathway to exceptional home care and give you back the gift of time." Welcome back to Senior Care Insights. Our final guest today is Steve Gonzalez. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Deb. It's great to be with you this afternoon.
So, thank you so much for coming on our show today. You are a bereavement manager? Is that what your title is?
That's what I am. That's at least what they tell me. I'm the
Okay.
Bereavement Program Manager for Harmony Care Hospice.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about that and where you're located.
Yeah. So I manage the bereavement program for our company for those who are grieving the loss of a loved one. We provide support to our patients and their families, as well as to the community. We also reach out to the community and provide education and support. We try to change the perception of grieving in our community through various ways, like workshops and educational events that we provide. But we are located in 7 different states. Michigan, for example, Ohio, but our main headquarters is located in Troy, Michigan, which is on the northeast side or the southeast side of Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Where are you located exactly?
So right now I am coming to you from Mason, Michigan, which is just south of Lansing, Michigan.
So you're close by then, actually.
I
wasn't
sure am.
I've spoken to someone else who was from another state who was working for Harmony Cares.
Oh,
And,
yes.
Yeah, she was on our last episode, Kim Spangler. So
Yes. Mhm.
yeah. So anyway, so as a hospice agency, how do you care for family members and caregivers with a loved one on hospice?
Yeah. Well, we recognize that when a family decides to put their loved one on hospice care, it's a very vulnerable time, not only for the patient, but also for the families and caregivers. And so we do provide what we call pre-bereavement support. That is to say, before the patient dies, we provide a supportive care, compassionate care to our family members as well as to our caregivers in facilities. And we do so through personal visits. We do so through phone calls, even through emails that we provide support. We also try to connect them with the community with other resources that we may not be able to provide or would not be along our lines in terms of what we offer. But we recognize that the families need as much support as we can provide and also refer them to during this vulnerable time in their lives.
Oh, yeah. So what are the bereavement services that you provide for those facing life without a loved one?
Yeah. That's a very difficult time for family members because they find themselves alone. They find themselves without the resources or the companionship to make decisions, and so it's a real challenging time for them. And so we try to address those issues and those needs through phone calls that we provide on a scheduled basis, just to touch in with them, just to see how they're doing. We also provide newsletters, bereavement newsletters that, as I'm told by many people that I speak with, these newsletters seem to be very timely. They arrive in their mailbox and in their hands, and they read them, and it just hits the spot. It really provides the support that they need during that period of time. We do provide bereavement support up to 13 months after the death of the loved one through phone calls, through mailings. We also provide counseling. If somebody thinks that and believes that they need just a little extra support, we provide counseling for them as well. So we stay with the family members up to 13 months, and it can even be extended beyond the 13 months if there's a request and a need to continue that.
Okay. Now I have a question, kind of personal, but I have a lot of caregivers, and they're working with the elderly, and we lose our clients when they pass away, usually, not any other reason. Sometimes they do go to assisted living or elsewhere, but usually, once they decide on home care, they are with our caregivers, and sometimes 2 or 3 years, and they develop a deep relationship, and they become like family. So do you provide services to companies who have caregivers as well?
Yes, we do. In fact, that's part of our community outreach. We do provide support to facility staff. We provide support groups, phone calls, counseling, whatever need that they have. We try to meet those needs through our supportive services that we provide. Being a caregiver is a really challenging thing to be, particularly if it's a loved one, someone that a family member. And it's hard to know what that's like unless you go through it yourself. And so there's a lot of different emotional, mental, physical, spiritual needs that caregivers have. And we try to address many of those needs through support groups, workshops, training sessions, and just good old-fashioned face-to-face visits and phone calls.
Okay. So our society tends to diminish the reactions of grief. Like, I guess you should be over it by now. You shouldn't really be grieving this long. How do you change that perception of death and grieving in the community?
Yeah. Well, that particular view and attitude is quite pervasive in our country, particularly in Western cultures, but certainly here in America, where we tend to be the eternal optimist. Thou shalt not speak anything negative. Mm-hmm. And so we run into that in our community with a lot of misconceptions about death and dying and the grieving process. And so with that in mind, we try to facilitate a change in the community's perception of how they think about death and dying and grieving through education. We do a lot of workshops in the community to help people understand just the dynamics involved in grieving, and that every person grieves in their own way. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. And we try to instill that in the community in some of the workshops that we do. And we believe that through education, we can help change the perception that is out there in the community. And I know that does occur because in these workshops, which I lead many of these workshops in the community, I hear people say, well, I never knew that, or I never understood that to be the case. Or is that why it seems to be taking a while for my mother to, go through her grieving process? And so there's a lot of aha moments that I experience when I do these workshops in the community. And there's usually a number of people, anywhere from 8 people to up to 50 people that I've had in these workshops. And so we try to change the perception through education and dialogue.
So where do you have your workshops and how often are they?
Yeah. Well, we actually do a number of workshops in senior centers. That seems to be sort of a gold mine of opportunities to provide those kinds of education. We do different workshops like Journey Toward Healing. That's where people learn just about what grieving is all about, the dynamics of it. Also, we do a workshop called How We Grieve the Dead in America and Why It Matters. And that really brings about a lot of discussion, because our society and our culture, particularly our past couple generations, have really changed in the way that they grieve. And so those workshops really provide, I think, a niche for that gap, that vacuum of understanding of what grieving is all about. But senior centers, we also do them in different assisted living facilities and where we have patients. We also do them in churches and VFWs and different civic organizations that have a building that we can do these workshops in.
Okay. So how has grieving changed? You just mentioned that.
Yeah. So grieving has, one of the practical ways in which grieving has changed is just in the area of children. It used to be the case that children were oftentimes invited to funeral services, and that tends to be diminished now, particularly with the younger generation of parents not wanting to expose their kids to a funeral and to what some call downers. And so you don't see many children at funeral services. Another way in which we've seen pretty significant changes is the growth of what's called celebration of life services. Those really began to take off back in the early 1960s. And the idea behind that, The American Way of Death, was a book written by Jessica Mitford that really tried to counter some of the price gouging that funeral homes were doing at that time, or engaged in. And so she advocated more of memorial services or celebration of life services where the body's not present. And so there's more and more celebration of life services rather than the traditional funeral services where tears and smiles are encouraged together, but more it's now the focus of we want to keep it light and sort of the bantering jokes of the loved one to kind of keep it lighthearted. So that is one of the major changes culturally that has occurred in the last several decades.
That's interesting. I noticed it, but not really paid that much close attention to it,
Mm-hmm.
Now that you mention it, is a lot different than when I went to a funeral when I was in 6th grade,
Oh, yes.
and especially a military funeral as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then children, though, sometimes will feel like they never want to go to a funeral again,
Yeah, right.
after a traumatizing experience like that. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay, so if someone wants more information on your hospice and bereavement services, how would they get in touch with you specifically?
Yeah, so we actually have a website. It's called, or the address is harmonycareshospice.com, harmonycareshospice.com. There's also a phone number that someone can call to get more information about all of our services, including hospice services and related bereavement services, by calling 248-824-6000, 248-824-6000. and that connects you to a live person, and they will connect you with an office closest to the area that you're calling from.
Okay. I do have one last question for you. How does pre-bereavement and bereavement services differ?
Yeah. So pre-bereavement obviously refers to services, bereavement support that we provide while the patient is living. And so we do provide regular visits through our chaplains and through our social workers and our bereavement personnel. We also provide phone calls as needed. We provide the services that they need at the time to provide them, that support and that encouragement as their loved one, as they watch their loved one live out their days on hospice. Bereavement services come after the patient has died, and what's new and what's different is that once their loved one dies, then they are enrolled in scheduled phone calls and scheduled newsletter mailings. And so they receive them during the course of 13 months that provide timely support for those who are grieving. So the difference is for bereavement, we have more touches, more media or media ways, such as a newsletter that is really designed to provide support with where they are 2 months, 5 months, 9 months after the death of their loved one. And then obviously we provide counseling, but we do that for both as well, pre-bereavement and bereavement.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great conversation with you, and we totally appreciate you joining. Thanks so much again for attending our Senior Care Insights podcast. I want to give a special thanks to the 3 guests that we had, Scott Topin, Nadal Garayab, and Steve Gonzalez, for all of their insights today. The goal of this show is to help people and to help seniors in particular with their senior care or any senior issues. So if you are enjoying the show and you have something to share with us, please reach out to me and we can get you scheduled on the show. Until next time, this is Dr. Deborah Moerland signing off. Have a great week.